goal is something that will put orderliness and expedite the proceedings. However, I propose that we, the Vice Chairman, in order to give our members enough time to ask their questions, to clarify on matters, as we have read already the provisions of the law, we will read our time to them. However, the Vice Chairman should be given the privilege to interact at any time of the discussions on matters which he wish to contribute on that particular issues that may be raised by the member.
Is there any second to that motion on how we proceed?
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman, willing to give the privilege to the Vice Chairman to interact would be violative of the basic rule of due process. We are all legislators here and there should be no extra privileges, extra fringe benefits. Insofar as Vice Chairmen are concerned, we are all equally members of Congress and we have the right to have the same right as the other chairman. That would be purely discriminatory on our part.
What does the proponent say? The first part of his suggestion, Congressman Nominal, is for the Vice Chairman to wait in the listing so that we can hear first. But the second part is for the Vice Chairman to intervene in the proceedings. So what do you say about Congressman Pasaja's suggestion to the second part?
Well, that's the chair has made good clarification on my proposal that the Vice Chairman would give our time to the members, because I understand, even in the previous discussions, that the time allotted for each member is not sufficient enough for them to give the necessary clarifications, especially on the contentious matter of the provisions of the law. So that waiving this to the members is, I think, giving importance and giving enough privilege to the members for them to have enough time in bringing this their clarifications. And that privilege for any Vice Chairman to interact, that will not also, I would say, deprive other members from point of inquiry or point of order to also interact.
So just a point of clarification. Does any member of the House have the right to interact at any moment the presentation is being made? That's what I want to clarify. Or is it only the Vice Chairman who have that right?
Well, that will be still at the pleasure of the chair.
No, it cannot be at the pleasure of the chair. There are certain rules and the chairman is
Yes, to clarify.
there will be no interaction as long as the presentation is not yet finished.
Mr. Chair, if the distinguished state colleague committee would probably not in accordance with my proposal, then I am withdrawing the proposal.
Thank you. So the proposal to interject by the Vice Chairman is withdrawn. But the proposal that the Vice Chairman waive the first in the list. I would like to ask the Vice Chairman, because it is their right. Are you waiving? We will wait for the members. On two Vice listed, you wait for the hear first. So since it is not waived by the members, so we'll just proceed. So there will be a list. We follow the list. No intervention. During the presentation, no intervention. Then the questions. Once a member has the floor, there's no other intervention. You wait for your turn. Thank you. So the rules are adopted.
Mr. Chairman, before we proceed, procedural, Mr. Chair.
Yes. Okay.
The members of the committee would want to know whether the minutes has already been approved. The minutes of the previous meeting.
It has been.
Because we did not have any motion.
There was a motion by Vice Chairman Ababa.
With that clarification,
Thank you. So now we proceed. We'd like to hear the Secretary of the Office Presidential Advisor for Peace Process.
Mr. Chairman, clarification on the rule that you approved. You were talking of 5 minutes.
Correct.
Mr. Chairman, this law is a 99-page,
120.
120. Now, and earlier in our first meeting, I asked the question about the participation of the members, and you said there will be free-wheeling discussion. Everybody will be allowed to express everything that is needed to be expressed. So, how can you limit a member to only 5 minutes of questioning? I hope that is 5 minutes of questioning that does not include the answer. Because one question can be answered in 20 minutes, lumampak na yung 5 minutes. So, therefore, if the idea is to give all the members here present time to express the views, will there be a second round and a third round and a fourth round? Because we cannot tackle the whole Bangsamoro basic law in 5 minutes, and besides the chairman, how will we do it? How will we ask our questions? Will we ask our questions from the preamble up to the transitory point? Because there will be no order in that case, because we will be running all over the place. So, should we now also discuss where our questions will be centered in this first hearing? Because really, if you tackle all provisions, there will be no sense of order in the questioning.
Yes, Congressman Tabrigato, for the first query, yes, there will be a second round. We are trying to have, therefore, everyone speak. At the time allotted to us, we can only give 5 minutes, but once the first round is finished, we go to the second round. And the reason for that is that we do not have the luxury of time in this particular hearing. We are now conducting hearings in spite of the plenary budget. And so there will be a second round. Here the 5 minutes will be on the question. The answers will not be counted. They can have long answers, but the questions will be timed, with timer here, and the questions will be in 5 minutes. Is that clear? Thank you very much. Yes,
Mr. Chairman.
yeah, Congressman Remonte of Legacy.
This is only a suggestion. How about giving more priority to the districts affected by that subprovisions of the PBL? Because Iligan City is a contiguous, no? So parte yan na, so marami kaming tatagawin. So why not allocate maybe a little more time? Mr. Chairman.
Mr.
Any
Chairman,
comment on that?
to avoid any objection,
as to the length of time that may be given to each and every member of the committee, why don't we treat the question and the answers on case-to-case basis? Because precisely the chairman is there.
I'm sorry, but we will not be able to finish it. That will be the procedure. So the only question now is whether we should give more time, as suggested by Congressman Ponte, to those areas that are in the port territory and adjacent. Any comment?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I agree with the proposal of Congressman Belmonte. I think they should be given more time, they should be given priority. And so, I support this proposal.
Any comment will go on that, but we first, yes, we now go into, first the rule is 5 minutes. We will see whether we can keep it to 5 minutes and we can extend it. Okay, so we'll now proceed with Secretary Dennis. Your remarks, please.
Good morning, Your Honor, and all the members, the honorable members of the committee. We thank you for this opportunity to be at the first briefing on the Bangsamoro Basic Law. This is indeed a momentous occasion. We can say that it has taken 17 years for this law, draft law, to be brought here. It has been a difficult road, but we are now at the phase where it moves into another arena, and that is the legislature, where properly this is the legislative making body to turn the political agreement and put it into law. This is, we know how important the law is. It topped the list of the legislative measures that was submitted by the Office of the President to the legislature, and that the President himself was present and led the submission of the law to Congress. And we thank the House of Representatives for acting very quickly and with all due importance, giving all due importance to the draft bill. And now the bill, with the creation of an ad hoc committee to facilitate the discussions. and the permission for the committee to be able to hold meetings even while the budget hearing is being conducted. Budget hearings are being conducted. We appreciate that very much. And we know also that the committee is already ready to do consultations on the ground even during recess. So we thank the committee, we thank all the members of the committee and all the members of the House of Representatives for giving this its due time, all its important time and attention. I had said this was a momentous occasion. I will take note that in fact something unprecedented is happening these days. That in this presentation, in the briefing, there is only going to be one presentation. In all the 17 years that this process has been ongoing, the government and the MILF were always on separate sides of the table. Growing in partnership, learning to take each other's understanding of each other's position, but always in all past fora, the GPH and the MILF spoke took separate time. And here we have decided that we, as the draft Bangsamoro Basic Law, had been joint work of the government and the MILF and the Bangsamoro Transition Commission, that there will only be one presentation. This is joint work, and that is how we will. It is our intent that throughout all of the briefings, throughout all of this process, the GPH and the MILF will continue to speak as one. And we hope, therefore, that you will understand and appreciate when sometimes questions are asked that we do not immediately answer and consult with each other. We are still learning how to do it in a really collective way, with due respect to each other. So sometimes we may not be so quick in answering questions because we would like to give due respect and give time to whoever is best to respond to that question. So again, I will not speak much longer. Chairman Iqbal will be doing an opening statement before the presentation. The presentation will be made by the Bangsamoro Transition Commission. That is by agreement with the government. The presentation was also. There was also input into the presentation by GPH, and this starts us, therefore, in this very important mission that we embark for a real partnership among peace partners that have undergone very hot, contested negotiations to be at this time pushing for the same draft law and standing on the same side and asking the House of Representatives and the Senate to please take into consideration and to give it the attention and as we already know is happening, to be able to pass the best Bangsamoro Basic Law. That, as has already been said over and over again, is not just for the Bangsamoro, it is not just for Mindanao, it is for peace and development of the entire country. Thank you very much, Your Honor.
Thank you, Secretary Deles. May I now recognize the chairman of the Bangsamoro Transition Commission and the head of the MILF Peace Panel, the Honorable Manager Iqbal, for his opening remarks and the presentation.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to make my opening statement. Thank you very much, Honorable Congressman Rocos Rodriguez, head of the Ad hoc Committee on Bangsamoro Basic Law. My courtesy also to all vice chairpersons and members of the Ad hoc Committee. My courtesy also to Secretary President Bing Deles, also to my esteemed counterpart, Professor Miriam Ferrer Coronel, to Head Secretary, former Secretary Selim Macalim, my fellow commissioners of the Bangsamoro Transition Commission, especially former Ambassador Nakmat Sangam, other guests, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Once again, thank you very much the opportunity to address you, honorable members of the House of Representatives. The proposed Bangsamoro Basic Law is a complex document, and for this reason, let me speak plainly and from my heart. While the Bangsamoro may be just another piece of legislation, for us, it is something more. The Bangsamoro is a promise of a better life for ourselves, our children, and our children's children. For a people that has constantly lived in fear and insecurity of war, the Bangsamoro is the hope of life, where our children can live safely and happily to pursue their grandest dreams. For a people that has known training poverty, the Bangsamoro is the hope of prosperity and abundance. For a people that has been effectively governed by others, not their own, the Bangsamoro is the hope that someday they shall be captains of their fate and builders of their future. The Bangsamoro is the sum of our hopes and dreams. It may mean nothing to you, but it is the whole world to us. It is what we got. It is what we only have. We implore you then to step lightly on these dreams when you discuss the draft law. Do not trample them. Celebrate them. Welcome them. This is my request and appeal to the honorable men and women of this House. Let me, however, warn you of people who would want to sow fear instead of hope in your hearts and in the hearts of the Filipino people. Their aim is to stop establishment of the Bangsamoro, and for this, they will take advantage of the deeply held biases and prejudices of the people. They will use the words like dismemberment of the Republic, sell out, violation of the Constitution, surrender, state within a state, and even employ or even on independence. To all of this, we say, be not afraid. To the Filipino people, be not afraid. Instead of dismemberment of the Republic, the Bangsamoro will further unite our peoples. There shall be no state within a state. The Philippine state shall remain sovereign. We only ask that we be allowed to govern ourselves. You shall see the Philippine flag and hear the national anthem sung in our schools and offices. Be not afraid of the Constitution. There are enough flexibilities in it to solve this problem. We only need to look for it. To the indigenous peoples in Bangsamoro, be not afraid. Just as we fought for our right to self-determination, so we shall protect yours. We are brothers and sisters. Our gain is your gain. Learn from our experiences and build on them. To the non-Muslims in the Bangsamoro, be not afraid. We shall not impose our beliefs on you. The Sharia will only apply to us Muslims. We ask only that we respect our respective faiths and ways of life. Verse 1 to 1 God has said in the Holy Quran, there is no compulsion in religion. And to you your religion, and to me my religion. To the people outside of the Bangsamoro and their leaders, do not be afraid. We only ask that the Bangsamoro people be asked directly, without fear of intimidation, whether or not they want to be part of the Bangsamoro. That is all. We will never impose ourselves on the communities that prefer to be not part of us. In the coming days, Congress will be asked to render judgment on the proposed Bangsamoro Basic Law. You will be asked, hope or fear? It is my prayer, choose hope over fear. Let us break free from this endless cycle of poverty, insecurity, and bad governance. Let us choose hope. Let us build the Bangsamoro. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chairman Iqbal, for that very enlightening opening remarks. We will now know who will give the presentation on behalf of both the JRP and the MLF panel. Chairman Iqbal will continue. Yes, so Chairman Iqbal is recognized to make the presentation. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Your Honor. But I would request one of our lawyers, Attorney Dumama to make the actual presentation.
Attorney Elias, recognized.
Thank you. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum and good morning. To the Honorable Chairperson of the committee and the esteemed members of the Ad Hoc Committee on the Bangsamoro Basic Law. We will give you a brief presentation on the contents of the Bangsamoro Basic Law. With your indulgence. What is in it for us? Chairman Iqbal has already laid down all the pretexts and context on passing the Bangsamoro Basic Law. Passing the Bangsamoro Basic Law will end the long-standing suffering of the Bangsamoro people. The region that has been stricken by conflict, fear, underdevelopment, lack of education, poverty, is now seeking recognition from the honorable Congress leaders to end the suffering of the Bangsamoro people. We also aim to foster unity and harmony to make the Bangsamoro feel part of the Philippines as a nation. We also hope to bring in economic development, help bring jobs to the people in the Bangsamoro, give them access to education, and help them contribute to the progress of this nation. And it would act as a shield against rising radicalism, because we need to make and promote and have a place that where people feel safe and important. Next slide, please. The outline of the Bangsamoro Basic Law is shown. It has 18 articles and 242 sections. The preamble, name and purpose. The preamble of the Bangsamoro Basic Law. We emphasize that it is in consonance with the Constitution and the universal accepted principles of human rights, liberty, justice, democracy, and the norms and standards of international law, reflective of our system of life prescribed by our faith and in harmony with our customary laws, cultures, and traditions. The purpose of establishing a Bangsamoro political entity to provide for a basic structure of the government in recognition of the justness and legitimacy of the cause of the Bangsamoro people and their aspiration to chart their political future through a democratic process that will secure the identity and posterity and allow for meaningful self-governance, including the right to self-determination and right to self-governance. What shall comprise the proposed Bangsamoro territory, or where shall the plebiscite be conducted? The present geographical area of the Bangsamoro region, the present geographical area of the Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao, 6 municipalities in the provinces of Lanao del Norte, Baloi, Munay, Nunungan, Pantar, Tagoloan, and Tanghal. The 39 barangays in the municipalities of Cabacan, Carmen, Alyosan, Pigcawayan, Pikit, and Midsayap in North Cotabato, who voted for yes to during the plebiscite in 2001, the cities of Cotabato and Isabela, and those qualified for inclusion in the plebiscite by way of resolution or petition. You can see an illustration of the Bangsamoro waters and the zones of joint cooperation. There shall be created a joint body composed of representatives from the Department of Environment and Natural Resources and the NAMRIA, and equal representatives from appropriate agencies of the Bangsamoro government that shall establish the coordinates of the Bangsamoro territory, including the Bangsamoro waters and the zones of joint cooperation. The zones of joint cooperation in the Sulusi and the Moro Gulf shall act to protect the traditional fishing grounds, benefiting from the resources therein, ensuring the connectivity of the islands and the mainland parts of the Bangsamoro so that they are parts of a cohesive territory, and ensuring the exercise of the preferential rights of the Bangsamoro people and other indigenous peoples. The Constitution left it to the wisdom of Congress to determine the most appropriate structure of government for the autonomous region, that is the Bangsamoro, with the only caveat that its legislative and executive officials must be elected. The Bangsamoro government shall be ministerial or parliamentary in form, with the Bangsamoro Parliament and the Bangsamoro Cabinet. Legislative authority shall be vested in the Bangsamoro Parliament, with 60 members of the Parliament, 50% of whom shall be from representatives from based on proportional representation, district representatives 40%, 10% reserved seats and sectoral representatives, who will serve on a 3-year term with no more than 3 consecutive terms, and the titular head shall be the wali, who shall perform only ceremonial functions. The Bangsamoro Cabinet shall be convened and presided over by the Chief Minister. The Chief Minister shall be assisted by a Deputy Chief Minister and Cabinet Ministers. The Chief Minister shall be elected by majority votes from among the members of the Parliament, and the Deputy Chief Minister shall be appointed by the Chief Minister from among the elected members of the Parliament, and other ministers' majority shall come from among the members of the Parliament. We have introduced the Intergovernmental Relations Mechanism, which is a mechanism that will coordinate and harmonize the relationship between the central government and the Bangsamoro government, resolve issues or disputes on intergovernmental relations through regular consultations and continuing negotiations in a non-adversarial manner. All unresolved issues in the intergovernmental relations mechanism shall be elevated to the President through the Chief Minister. The central government shall appoint a representative to the intergovernmental relations body, and the Bangsamoro government shall also have a minister who shall sit in this body representing the Chief Minister. There shall be a Philippine Congress Bangsamoro Parliament Forum for cooperation and coordination of legislative initiatives, and an Intergovernmental Fiscal Policy Board for cooperation and coordination on fiscal matters such as harmonization of fiscal policies and addressing revenue imbalances and fluctuations. As you can see, the proposed Bangsamoro Basic Law provides for a provision on general supervision. Consistent with the principle of autonomy and asymmetric relation of the central government and the Bangsamoro government, the President shall exercise general supervision over the Bangsamoro government to ensure that laws are faithfully executed. The Bangsamoro justice system in the proposed Bangsamoro Basic Law provides for the Sharia courts, which shall have supremacy and application over Muslims only, the traditional tribal justice system for the indigenous peoples, the local courts, and alternative dispute resolution systems. The Sharia court shall consist of Sharia circuit courts or the lower courts, the Sharia district courts or the appellate courts, and the Bangsamoro Sharia High Court. Local courts in the Bangsamoro shall continue to exercise their judicial functions as provided by law. The Bangsamoro government may undertake measures to improve their workings consistent with the powers of the Supreme Court. On public order and safety, there shall be a Bangsamoro police who will take charge of law enforcement and maintenance of peace and order in the Bangsamoro. we emphasize that the Bangsamoro Police shall form part of the Philippine National Police. There shall also be a Bangsamoro Police Board that will perform the functions of the NAPOLCOM in the Bangsamoro. The board shall form part, again, of the NAPOLCOM, and the NAPOLCOM shall ensure that the Bangsamoro Police Board performs its powers and functions within the bounds of its authority. On the issue of wealth sharing and revenue generation, please note that the sharing of national tax collections within the region is an enhancement of the existing scheme in RA 9054, or the Act amending the RA 6738 on ARMM. 100% of the taxes transferred to the Bangsamoro, such as the capital gains tax, donor's tax, documentary stamps tax, and estate tax, shall pertain to the Bangsamoro. 100% of those taxes already devolved to the ARM shall also pertain to the Bangsamoro. And the new sharing scheme is on national taxes collected will be 25% to the central government and to 75% to the Bangsamoro government. On sharing in the revenues from the exploitation, development, and utilization of natural resources, please note again that the sharing scheme provided is an improvement of the arrangement in RA 9054, which does away with the distinction between strategic and non-strategic minerals, which are non-scientific and purely political classifications. 100% of the non-metallic minerals in the Bangsamoro shall go to the Bangsamoro government. For the metallic minerals such as gold, copper, silver, 75% shall go to the Bangsamoro government and 25% to the central government. And for fossil fuels and uranium, 50% to the Bangsamoro government and 50% to the central government. For other sources of funds, we now have the annual block grant, which is the share of the Bangsamoro in the national internal revenue equivalent to 4% of the national internal revenue collection less the era of the LGUs. And a special development fund for rehabilitation and development purposes with an amount of 7 billion for the first year and 10 billion paid out over 5 years to be given to the Bangsamoro government. Please note that the Constitution ensures that all government units, from the regular LGUs to the autonomous governments mentioned in its Article 10, shall have a just share in the national taxes, which shall automatically be released to them. Currently, LGUs enjoy this constitutional guarantee by virtue of the ERA. The introduction of the annual block grant is to allow the Bangsamoro the same or even greater level of autonomy in the management of its budget. On natural resources, we point out that we have provided the preferential rights of the Bangsamoro people in terms of the exploration, development, and utilization of natural resources of the Bangsamoro. As to the rights of the indigenous peoples on natural resources, the proposed Bangsamoro Basic Law gives them a share in the revenues, a preferential right in the exploration, development, and utilization of natural resources within their area, and free and prior informed consent in relation to development initiatives. On exploration, development, and utilization of fossil fuels and uranium, preferential rights to qualified citizens who are bona fide inhabitants of the Bangsamoro. It is also subject to the free and prior informed consent of the indigenous peoples in whose territory such natural resources are found. The proposed Bangsamoro Basic Law recognizes and protects the customs, traditions, beliefs, and cultures of its indigenous inhabitants. The freedom of choice is mentioned twice in the proposed Bangsamoro Basic Law. the right of the indigenous peoples to adjust and equal treatment and freedom from all forms of discrimination, oppression, and exploitation is mentioned again under the basic rights. Protection of the rights of the indigenous peoples in the Bangsamoro is in accordance with the UNDRIP, or the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, taking into account economic and geographical criteria, individual and communal property rights, cultural integrity, customary beliefs, and historical and community traditions. On governance and representation, the indigenous peoples will have representation in the Bangsamoro Transition Authority and in the interim cabinet, the Indigenous Peoples Affairs, gender and ethnic balance in the hiring process for the bureaucracy. Bangsamoro Parliament will have 2 reserved seats for indigenous peoples. There is also membership in the Council of Leaders for the indigenous peoples, and the Parliament shall create an appropriate office or ministry for the IPs in the cabinet. Again, we mentioned the share of indigenous communities. They have an equitable share from the revenues generated from the exploration, development, and utilization of natural resources found within the territories covered by a native title in their favor. Please look at the decision-making levels in terms of plebiscite. For the present geographic area of the ARMM, we determine the votes based on province and city. For the municipalities, in the province of Lanao del Norte, municipality. For the 39 barangays in North Cotabato, per barangay. For the cities of Isabela and Cotabato, per city. And for the petitioning LGU, per LGU. So we aim to have information campaigns and advocacies for the plebiscite pertaining to the proposed Bangsamoro Basic Law and the ratification process. We aim to inform residents regarding the significance and meaning of the plebiscite and to help them vote intelligently. We include sectoral campaigns for indigenous communities, there's a Senator Bongbong Marcos mentioned yesterday that he intends to go to the affected regions as well as those who are not included as part of the proposed Bangsamoro territory to conduct consultations. For information campaigns and other public advocacy initiatives with indigenous communities, local leaders shall be engaged to lead discussions in the respective communities. So the public advocacy initiative shall be conducted within the framework of solidarity, cooperation, and unity, and we give due respect to the roles of the indigenous and women to encourage their active participation. That is the last slide. Return the floor to the Honorable Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the presentation. Once again, Madam
Thank you very much, Your Honor. I will only make a very brief statement regarding that question. First, with the indulgence of the honorable members of the special committee, it has been our policy in the MILF that we trust the collective wisdom of both houses of Congress, the Senate and the House, to pass a good legislation. Secondly, we have been very consistent that we are not answering hypothetical questions. So that's all.
Thank you. So, you have already been given 15 minutes. We have some more questions. So we go to the second round.
If my time of questioning is ended, I will abide by the ruling of the chair.
We give you more time. Another 5 minutes. Yes.
If not, I will reserve my right to be listed in the second round, third round, and fourth round.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Chair.
Yes, He has graciously said that he will take the second round. So,
I will yield my 5 minutes to Congressman Lobregat so that he will be allowed to continue his interpellation.
yes, okay, so you are given 5 more minutes?
Thank you very much to my colleague.
The time of Vice Chairman Wabino.
So, yes, Mr. Chairman, actually, other peace agreements were mentioned. No? Now, one of the differences between the CAP is the comprehensive agreement on the Bangsamoro. We should relate this and correlate this to the final peace agreement with the MNLF. Actually, the CAP is a document of about 5 pages, if I'm not mistaken, and it just reiterates that all agreements will be entered into that will be implemented. But the final peace agreement was a very thick document, as thick as the draft BBM, wherein all the provisions were so stated. And in the totality clause of the final peace agreement, it says that any past agreement that is inconsistent with the final peace agreement, what will prevail is the final peace agreement. And also in the final peace agreement with the MNLF, it was so clearly stated that any interpretation will be judged in the realm of the Philippine Constitution. Those two very important provisions that in case there is a conflict, it is the Constitution that will prevail. And all past agreements are now subjected to the final peace agreement. Here, it is the reverse. The CAP, in fact, in the last statement, says that the government is committed to implement all agreements. So those are the very, very important provisions that are missing in this CAP and in the basic law. May we have the comment why those two very important provisions are not so stated in the draft BBM.
Secretary Gladys is recognized.
With regard, Your Honor, the fact of the supremacy of the Constitution, it is in the Bangsamoro Basic Law. It is in the draft Bangsamoro Basic Law, and it may be reiterated. It is all of the provisions there to ensure that the Bangsamoro Basic Law is within the Constitution, the territory is within the Philippine national territory, that the Bangsamoro is under the general supervision of the President. All of these are very explicitly stated there. With regard to the commitment to the implementation of all past agreements, Your Honor, we have the confidence of doing that, knowing what has already been done in terms of the implementation of all other past agreements. It is in fact our position that the 1996 final peace agreement had been implemented. There is an RA 1954 that was passed in relation to that law, and that nevertheless, and this is part of why the lesson now that we are making sure that the MILF is with us in this full legislative process, is because the MNLF complained that they were not part of drafting of that law, and therefore in the end did not own it. We went through a process, several meetings also, 2 years also of discussions with the MNLF to review what was in fact missing in the law. And 42 consensus points were agreed upon, and I can assure the members of the committee that those 42 consensus points are all addressed in the current draft that we are submitting. So we have no fear, Your Honor, that there is any part of any of the past agreements that can be held up to us that as not having been implemented. And our utmost commitment, of course, is to the full implementation of the comprehensive agreement, which covers 4 annexes and the framework agreement, the 4 annexes and 1 addendum.
And thank you. Final question before we proceed to the other debaters.
I would just like,
Yes.
I would just like to correct the chairman or the secretary, when she said the MNLF did not own and was not part of it. History tells us that there was the 1976 Tripoli Agreement, and that was signed by the MNLF. It was signed by Chairman Nur Miswari. Fast forward, actually, there was the Constitution. And in the Constitution, the reason for the inclusion of the provision of the creation of the autonomous region in Northern Mindanao, and you can check the proceedings of the Commission, was precisely because of the Tripoli Agreement. And so after the passage of the Constitution, the Congress was mandated to enact the first organic law of the arm. 2 years after, Congress passed Republic Act 6734, and it was in that law that the MNLF boycotted the plebiscite. So, in the first law, perhaps you can say that the MNLF did not own up to Organic Law 6734. But then there was the final peace agreement of 1996. And in fact, in that final peace agreement, because of that final peace agreement, all of the provisions of the final peace agreement were incorporated into law. And if the MNLF did not own up to it, why did Chairman Nur Miswari run in the elections under Republic Act, and became the first governor? So I just want to correct the statement that the MNLF did not own up to it, because the MNLF owned up to it. Unfortunately, if you're saying the government is bound to implement all the commitments, ma'am, the peace agreement was signed in 1996, the law was passed, there was a plebiscite, and it has been more than almost 18 years. But the other side of the negotiating panel, which is the MNLF, said that there are some agreements that have not been implemented. Now, I respect the MNLF. They are the best of negotiators. Now, what is to stop them from saying, like the MNLF, hey, this small part of the agreement has not been complied with. So, what is going to happen to us? There are two sides, and also, since this is my last question, the question I ask about what happens if Congress amends, revises, and the answer of the Honorable Chairman said, they are not answering to hypothetical questions. Those are not hypothetical questions. Those are real questions that will hound us all throughout the deliberations. What if we change? What if we revise? What if we want to make the law conform to our Constitution? What will happen? It is not a hypothetical question, it is a real question.
So we ask Secretary Teles to comment on this point of information.
Precisely, Your Honor. That is why we are committed to be fully engaged in this process, so that at any point where anything will be scrutinized or any change, which we hope will always be for the betterment of the law, is proposed, that we will be here so that it will be a decision that will be mutually agreed upon. That is certainly our intent, Your Honor. It is not to stop or to diminish the power of the Congress to make the law, but it is to ensure that all the parties concerned are on board as the drafting and the passage of the law proceeds. With regard to the MNLF, that has certainly been our position, Your Honor, and we are ready to defend that position. We believe the 1996 Final Peace Agreement has been substantially completed. But to ensure that any such complaints later on will have no basis. I understand and we appreciate the intention of both the House of Representatives and the Senate to make sure that the consultations will be inclusive. I understand that the MNLF, with their different factions and their different leadership, will be invited here. And we also know that the MNLF and all their different leadership is also quite transparent about their position on the Bangsamoro Basic Law. So having said that, Your Honor, and that is why we looked at this process of legislation as very important, and we hope we are taking it very seriously, and we are asking all of the House of Representatives, all of the Senate, the Senate chamber, and we ask, in fact, all of the stakeholders who are watching this. We ask all civil society and all these advocates to take this very seriously. We want this to be a process that results in the best, most acceptable, just, and fair law that will be good not just be for the Bangsamoro, but for the entire Mindanao and in fact, for the entire country. It is not going to be, certainly the executive cannot guarantee that. Certainly we need Congress, and certainly we need the public to be behind this law, and we are therefore putting our confidence in the leadership of the two chambers of Congress to lead us through a process that will be transparent, that will be participatory, that will take in the positions of the stakeholders, and in the end, make the best decisions for the Bangsamoro and for the country.
Thank you, Secretary Dennis. We now proceed with the next interpellator, Congressman Barsaga of Cavite.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Well, my first question would be a legal clarification. Are we agreed that the Bangsamoro law, in the event that this will be approved, will be subservient to the Constitution?
Your Honor, that is very openly stated in the preamble.
Thank you very much for that affirmation. And therefore, the powers granted by the Constitution to the three departments of the government, namely the executive, the judiciary, and the legislative, will not be diminished in any manner whatsoever.
But certainly, Your Honor, yes.
And therefore, the Bangsamoro law would be the subject to our basic right, to the basic right of Congress to amend, modify, or repeal it in the event that there will be change in the circumstances, and our position is it would be better in order to make amendments in the law. Oh, is there a problem with that? Huh? Otherwise, you remove our powers.
No, certainly. Yes, Your Honor. I just wanted to check on some procedural thing that may have been put on the law. But certainly, Your Honor, the Bangsamoro Basic Law cannot amend, cannot diminish what the Constitution says are the powers of the executive, the legislative, and the judicial.
So, as a follow-up to that question, we affirm that in the future, in the event we pass this law and Congress feels in the future that there are certain provisions to be amended in order to achieve the purpose of everlasting peace could be obtained, you will agree that we have that power.
Yes, Your Honor, but we hope that you will use a mechanism that is proposed in the law, that there is a parliamentary forum where this can be discussed, because I think even in the amendment of the law, in any changes that will be made in the future, we hope that Congress will see it that it is best that this is done in the most amicable way, in a way that is acceptable to all the parties. And so precisely we have put in a provision that there is ongoing discussion and dialogue between the National Congress and the Bangsamoro Assembly, so that these matters may be taken up and that there may be mutually acceptable resolutions of any such issues that may come up in the future.
Well, definitely we can assure everybody that in the event that the law would be passed and there is a certain procedure for amending it, definitely we have to comply with the amendatory process in the law. As a matter of fact, it is even possible that the amendments may be initiated by the executive or even by the Bangsamoro themselves, depending upon the circumstances prevailing at the time. So we are agreed with that.
Yes, Your Honor, we recognize that
Okay.
this is a national law, therefore it belongs to National Congress.
And I'm happy to hear a while ago that you recognize the power of the Supreme Court insofar as all cases are concerned.
Of course, Your Honor.
Okay? Well, under the proposed law and also under the Constitution, insofar as autonomous region is concerned, the President has general supervision. And of course, you know that under the Constitution, the President has certain powers. The President, under certain instances, has the power to declare martial law, has the power to suspend the writ of habeas corpus, when the Bangsamoro recognize this power. Although under the law and under the Constitution, the power of the President over the autonomous region would be only general supervision.
Certainly, Your Honor, and it is clear in the reserved powers, which is, of course, recognizes all the reserved powers that are mentioned in the Constitution, but precisely, certain powers were given prominence, and that includes national defense, foreign policy. That is a reserved right of the national government. The regional an autonomous region will have to follow. Only the President has the right to call the armed
We want to
forces up.
clarify that and to put that in the records of the proceedings because in all likelihood, there will be some issues that will be raised before the Supreme Court. Now, under the bill itself, when it comes to plebiscite, you have used the word majority of all the voters. Is that correct?
All registered voters, yes, Your
Yes,
Honor.
meaning to say that if one province there are 50,000 voters, then the approval necessary would be 50% plus 1, not the majority of the votes cast.
Is it, which defines the procedure for determining the whether or not the local government concerned have ratified, and that is based on the majority of votes cast.
No. I think
In the section on plebiscite, we have here very clearly that the determination of the outcome shall be based on the majority of votes cast in the following provinces. And in fact, this is under section 1
what about this
of
issue of territorial jurisdiction as appearing on page 88? Section 3. Results of the plebiscite. For the present geographic area of ARMN, if the majority of the registered voters in each province and city vote in favor of the Bangsamoro Basic Law, the respective provinces and cities shall be included in the Bangsamoro. The phrase which you use, majority of the registered voters. So if there are 50,000 registered voters, necessarily there must be at least 25,001 voter who shall vote for each approval.
Yes, Your Honor. It says here those who vote, majority of the registered voters in
Yes.
each province and city vote in favor. But it's qualified also in section 1 that it shall be based on the majority of the votes cast. Certainly, Your Honor, if some further clarity on the language would be needed.
No, what is section 1? I'm referring to section 2, research of the plebiscite.
Yes,
You
sir.
always use majority of the votes of the registered voters. That is entirely different from the majority of the votes cast.
In section 1, it says here that the establishment of the Bangsamoro and the determination of the Bangsamoro territory shall take effect upon ratification of this basic law by majority of the votes cast in the following provinces.
So which is which now?
The intention is to
No,
base...
my question is which provision would prevail?
Section 1 is the
Why not Section
intention.
2? This is the latter provision.
Section 3, you're referring to Section 3, Your Honor, if some tightening of the language should be needed to...
No, it's not a tightening of the language. It's very basic. Majority of the votes cast is different from majority of all the registered voters.
It's our position, Your Honor, that majority of the votes cast is what should prevail.
Hindi nga yun ang ginamit nyo, majority of the registered
So that
voters.
maybe one of the changes that will have to be made. Just to make that clear.
Okay. Now, the purpose of the autonomous region, the purpose of creating the Bangsamoro is to solve the peace and order problem in Mindanao. Will that be correct? Yes.
Yes, Your Honor, and therefore improve also the entire socio-economic state of the entire country.
How will the panel react if during the period of amendment, I would propose an amendment that the Bangsamoro should not secede from the Republic of the Philippines because my purpose is to maintain the integration of the Philippine territory.
Your Honor, I think that is already very clearly the commitment. It has been said several times.
No, in the future. Will there be any problem to our Muslim brothers if we propose an amendment to say that there will be no secession from the Republic of the Philippines?
Although it will not have to be said, Your Honor, because precisely this is already coming under the...
No, it's very important to place it. Because if there is a provision that there will be no secession, in the event that any group in the autonomous region would try to secede, that would be an act of rebellion in violation of the Organic Act.
Yes, Your Honor, in Article 3, Section 1, it says the Bangsamoro territory shall remain a part of the Philippines. If Congress should so...
No, we know that,
you know that.
But the purpose is to make everything categorical. Nagkakaroon ba tayo ng problema roon? If our purpose is to have good faith with one another.
Your Honor, I think if that is how Congress sees it, that it is necessary to put in that sentence, although we think it is not necessary, we think it is not clear enough, but if that will be the decision of Congress, then there will be no objection, because you will see in the entire framing of this law that it is taken under the autonomous the mandate for autonomy of what the Constitution. It says very clearly. It puts all of these provisions that clearly state that this is part of the Philippines. There shall be no division, subdivision. But if it is the wisdom of Congress to think that it is necessary to put in such a sentence, I do not see how it would cause a problem.
Yeah, Chairman Iqbal is recognized.
Yes. One of the members of our delegation is a lawyer. He's a member of the panel of independent lawyers. Then I request Attorney Bong Montesa to help us out in this issue.
Yes, Attorney Bong Montesa is recognized. Where is Mr. Montesa? Then the Secretary Chair, okay. Use the microphone. Attorney Montesa is recognized.
Mr. Chair, this representation speaks as an independent legal advisor to both panels. So this comment is entirely mine. But I think that entirely mine as an independent lawyer. In terms of the question of Honorable Barsaga on whether there will be a problem on putting a statement that there will be no secession in the basic law, I think that the whole tenor of the law, in fact, the coming of the MILF and the executive to an agreement to pass a BBL is in itself an admission that there is no secession. But the aspirations for independence can never be legislated. And so, while there is nothing that bars Congress from putting it, and it will not contravene any of the agreements. In reality, it cannot really stop people who are aspiring for secession or independence in the future. And then you are correct, sir, that then they will be subject to our rules on rebellion and all other our national security rules. But there is nothing that can stop Congress from putting your provision in.
Oh, we know that. But we want first to ask the opinion, to ask the position of the stakeholders. That is the reason why we are conducting this hearing. Eh kasi kung sasabihin yung it is our power, then we might as well dispense with this hearing. At decision na lang namin itong mga provision na to. Kaya nga tinatanong namin sa inyo, magkakaroon ba tayo ng problema kung sakasakaling ilagay natin doon sa batas that there will be no secession?
It will, certainly, Your Honor, that will be accepted, but I think we would prefer that it not be there. Because,
why not?
because precisely it questions the motives here. When it is very clearly already the point of the entire law is to put the jurisdiction of the Bangsamoro under the constitutional mandate of autonomy. It is like also already saying that we in fact doubt that is in fact the intention. But that is our position, Your Honor. But as I said, it will not cause a problem if Congress, going through the entire process, sees the need for putting in such a section, it would not cause a problem.
Well, I think certainly the comment that we are questioning the good faith or the bad faith of the parties is out of tandem. That is not my intention. My only intention is to show to the Filipino people that this autonomous bill would not result to integration of the disintegration of the country. Although there is a provision that this is part of the Philippine territory, but as you have stated earlier, it is midway between the local government and the national government. It is autonomous region. It's up to you. But I will insist for that proposal during the period of amendment.
Yes, Your Honor, and I hope Congress will find the best place in which to put such intent.
Mr. Chairman, let's have Senator finish.
May I say something about what is being discussed now, Mr. Chairman?
Actually,
Mr. Chairman,
we have a
the
list here.
Honorable Barsaga is asking whether if we put the word or the phrase that we will not, there will be no possibility of secession. Sinasabi po ni Secretary Teres, this is not in defense of Secretary Teres. It is only my feeling, Mr. Chairman, na although we can put that, no? But my submission, Mr. Chairman, is that why do we have to put that? Because precisely you are talking here of creating an autonomous government. So it is inconsistent for us to say na kailangan walang secession. Kasi pinag-usapan na natin ang autonomy na Muslim Mindanao. So kailangan pa ba natin ilagay sa ating BBL na hindi kayo dapat magsisi? Hindi na kailangan yan kasi ang hinihingi nila autonomy. So, baka naman pwedeng hingi kay Congressman Maglagan. Huwag na natin ilagay. This might cause some misimpression na tinatakot natin sila. Oh, sige, bigyan namin kayo autonomy. Pero, wag niyong isipin na magsisida. Ganon yan eh, kaya ng dating. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. So we have the last question.
Mr. Chair, may I make a manifestation?
Yes, okay.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the suggestion and discussion, the exchange of ideas. And I'd like to speak as a Bangsamoro, as a stakeholder. I have no, I respect the suggestion of including such phrase in the provision, but may I just manifest it as a Bangsamoro, as a part of this entity, as a part of this people, a group of people. I I find it a little offensive, perhaps, the inclusion of that statement, because it seems to proceed po from an impression that we are a rebellious people. So, that's why I'm just stating this po kasi as Samoro, medyo may ganun ho siyang effect. Kaya siguro if you want to also be sensitive perhaps to other groups of people or individuals. Anyway, there is already a statement there saying that yes, we do agree that we are a part of the Philippines. So I think that would be enough po. Thank you.
Thank you, Congresswoman Hataman. And final response of Congressman Basaga before we go to the next interpreter.
Well, actually, I have the best intentions. As a matter of fact, for the benefit, for the information of everybody, the biggest Muslim community in the province of Cavite is situated in my city, the city of Dasmariñas. I know the traditions, the custom, the beliefs of all of Muslims. My only intention is that I want, as a true-blooded Filipino, to guarantee the integrity of the Philippine territory. Of course, this is a democracy. Everybody is entitled to its opinion. But that is my opinion. And of course, if the rule of the majority would be otherwise, I don't have any other alternative except to agree with it. As a matter of fact, whenever there are problems in Muslim Mindanao, we are always affected. Because our constituents, our Muslim constituents, pupunta sila sa Dasmariñas, nagkakaguluhan niya sa Basilan, i-enroll yung kanilang mga anak doon sa Dasmariñas without any birth certificate, without any school records. And even in cases of murder, they don't allow themselves to be the subject of their autopsy, and therefore, an eye for an eye and for a tooth. Good, I know this. As a matter of fact, I was the first mayor who established a public and elementary school na itunuturo yung inyong Arabic language. And you can verify that with the Muslim community in Dasmariñas. Ang sa akin lang, as a Filipino, I want to guarantee the integrity, the integration of the Philippine territory. And as a lawyer, I don't see any reason why there would be a problem with that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you,
Chairman.
Congressman Basaga. The next in the list is Congressman Abeg from Palawan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, we would like to send our appreciation first to Speaker Belmonte for Deputy Speaker Padilla and the committee, to the chairman for designating us as deputized members of this committee as representatives of the province of Palawan. My greetings first to Secretary Deles, to Professor Colonel Ferrer, to Chairman Iqbal, and to the parties and to the guests. I only have few clarificatory questions, Madam. In Section 1 of the bill, Bangsamoro people, those who at the time of conquest and colonization were considered natives or original inhabitants of Mindanao and the Sulu archipelago and its adjacent islands, including Palawan, and their descendants, whether mixed or of full blood, shall have the right to identify themselves as Bangsamoro or Bangsamoro by inscription or by self-ascription. Now, on Article 3, in the provision territory, in sections 1 to 7, there is not stated the province of Palawan. Simple clarificatory question. If I may address this to Chairman Iqbal first, Mr. Chairman. Is the province of Palawan part and under the jurisdiction of the Bangsamoro of this bill?
Chairman, if is recognized.
If you look at the whole proposed Bangsamoro visit law, you will not find that Palawan is included.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Your Honor, for record purposes, because my constituents in the province are a little bit worried about the word province of Palawan stated in the first section in section 1. So for clarification, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
I think this requires further elaboration. We are speaking here about concepts. See, if you look at the first term, Bangsamoro homeland, that's the traditional Bangsamoro homeland, and Palawan is included. That's part of the Sultanate of Sulu. If you look at the ancestral net of the Bangsamoro, then we are looking at a larger territory. If we speak about the Bangsamoro territory, it is what is stipulated in the Bangsamoro law.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Because in previous plebiscites, like for example the ARMM, we're also to be included in the ARMM. But in I think 4 plebiscites, the province has voted an overwhelming vote of 85% saying that they do not want to be part of the entity.
Ladies and gentlemen, stand with this please. May I now recognize...
Mr. Chairman, I still have, I don't know how many...
I still have some time.
I still have, I think, maybe 2 or 3 minutes, if I could waive it for Congressman Castro.
Well, next to be recognized is Congressman Belmonte, and I think that...
Mr. Chairman, I will just use this 2 minutes waive in my favor.
Okay.
Without, of course, waiving my slot.
Recognize...
Later on, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, this representation has observed that there were certain critical issues raised by Congressman Barzaga. Simply to have a closure on the issues raised by Congressman Barzaga. Critical issues were answered by Secretary Teles, of course representing the panel of the government. Now my question now, Mr. Chairman, is, will the MILF panel adopt all the answers of Secretary Teles to critical issues raised by Congressman Barzaga?
Before that question should be answered, Mr. Chairman, just for the record, I am withdrawing my comment regarding secession, including mine.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman, this representation did not only refer to the matter of secession, but there are matters of constitutional matters which were raised by Congressman Barzaga. My question now is, does the MILF adopt the answers of Secretary Teles, especially on the matter of constitutional issues raised by Congressman Barzaga?
Chairman Iqbal is recognized.
This is a very difficult question. Damn you do, damn you don't. My answer is I do not have comment.
He reserves comment. So, okay, so we can proceed now with the next interpolator. We go to Congressman Belmonte.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Secretary Teles, Chairman Bad, Professor Pereira, and members of the general panel, the PTC, my colleagues, good morning po. Iligan City and its people fully support peace and development for Mindanao.
Can we have silence? Silence, please. Can we have silence? Let us hear Congressman Del Monte of Iligan City. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Iligan City and its people fully support peace and development for the Bangsamoro. We support the BBL, but at the same time, we have the feeling of fears, concern, worries about our future because of the some provisions, few provisions of the BBL. Mr. Chairman, I would like clarification on Section 3 of the Article 3, territory, and Section 3, the contiguous territory. Pwede ba malaman kung ano talaga ibig sabihin nito? Especially the words at any time when upon a petition of 10% of the qualified voters, they can opt to be included. First question, bakit po anytime? Second question, like Palawan, Iligan City already refused to be included in the Bangsamoro arm before, twice. So, although there are only 7 barangays presently contiguous with the Bangsamoro territory, it comprises more than 80% of the land area of Iligan. Supposing mga botante po, they will vote to be included, manalo sila sa plebiscite, what will happen with Iligan City, a highly urbanized city? We will be dismembering Iligan City. Not only dismembering, Iligan City will be disintegrated. Paano mangyari sa mga ira namin? Ano mangyari sa once the industrial city of the South? So, ang question ko po, we want more clarification on this matter, on this particular section D and the section 3 of the contiguous territory. Thank you,
Yes, we would like to ask Professor Ferrer to answer the questions of Congressman Del Monte on territory.
Yes, Your Honor, we take the question. Certainly, it is very clear that Iligan City is not included in the prospective core territory of the Bangsamoro as currently enumerated. The only way parts of Iligan City or the whole of Iligan City may be included in the upcoming plebiscite after the passage of the law or in the future is when there is significant interest from the people of Iligan City themselves to so be given the chance. So it will not happen if the people of Iligan City do not wish to be included. And the manner that has been provided in this draft Bangsamoro Basic Law for that possibility, that remote possibility, is through the mode of petition of 10% of registered voters. And this requirement is consistent with the Initiative and Referendum Act that is also part of our national laws, giving due recognition to a very democratic principle, the principle of the consent of the people.
But you did not answer my main question, Professor. What will happen with the rest? Supposing part of Iligan opts to be a part of the Bangsamoro, what will happen with the one left behind? Yung anong mangyayari doon sa mga LGU, yung barangay na naiwan? Baka hindi, cannot even qualify as a city anymore. Baka ordinary city na lang, ordinary municipality na lang. Another question is, do you entertain with the term LGUs? Do you refer to barangays or the whole city of Iligan? Because there's a chance, big chance, na yung kung mga butante doon sa hinterlands alam mo, may magbubuto po yun in favor. Tatakotin nila yung not in favor. So, it will appear in the plebiscite that those who majority talaga ang bubuto. The silent majority will not vote. Why? Matatakot sila doon sa Bangsamoro. Yun ang perception namin sa iligan. So, wala pong clarification ito, no? So, we are questioning kung ito ba kailangan pa ba ilagay. Bakit hindi natin gawin fix na lang yung territory nyo? Doon nga sa ibang bansa, yung mga countries doon, federal state, fix na. Ito, meron pang adjustable. Lastikohin pa natin. So, why not include na lang ngayon para magkaroon kami ng peace of mind? So, those are the questions I believe most frequently asked, especially not only in Ligan, those territories that are contiguous with the Bangsamoro po. So, first, another follow-up question. Pwede ba mag-plebiscite yung barangay lang, not the whole city? And who will be included in the plebiscite? Just in case a few barangays will also be included. The whole city or those barangays affected?
Sige po, Your Honor. Maybe we will describe how other areas may be included. We make a distinction between the first plebiscite. The first plebiscite is upon the passage of the law that will define the initial territory of the Bangsamoro. And the second classification are for those contiguous areas that may decide to join, that may want to join in the future. So may pagkakaiba po yun, yung mangyayari dito sa unang plebisito, doon sa hinaharap. Kaya kung makikita niyo po yung article on territory, it refers to territory in general, whereas the article on the plebiscite refers only specific to the first plebiscite. So very basic po, may reference po tayo sa geographic areas. Therefore, geographic areas, which is a concept used in the Constitution defining the potential territory of autonomous regions, can apply to the level of the barangay, all the way up to the province. So ang masasabi ko lang po, ang major difference dito sa unang plebisito, ang process para makasama yung mga nakadikit na mga barangay ay through either the petition or of 10% of registered voters, they will be included in the first plebiscite or an LGU resolution. Ganun lang po para makasama sila. In the future, however, because they are part of local governments that are not under the Bangsamoro, since the Bangsamoro has already been created, the manner for resolving the matter would have to conform with the local government code. In other words, if a barangay, for instance, in one of the 7 barangays you have mentioned in Iligan City that are adjacent to either Tagaloan and Baloy, assuming of course that Tagaloan and Baloy vote to be included in the Bangsamoro because they will still go through the vote. Kung meron pong isang barangay dyan na gustong mapasali, the process to set that off is to submit a petition of 10% of registered voters to the COMELEC. But because under the local government code and under the Constitution, affected units will have to be consulted, then in the future it will have to be a vote of the whole local government, which is at the province level, all the way up or maybe sa province level. Because that is what is stipulated both in the Constitution. That's right. In this example, it will be at the level of the whole city, in conformity with what the Constitution says, with reference to other local governments, which says that the political units that are directly affected shall also be consulted, and in accordance with the local government code. But the distinction is being made between the first plebiscite and the subsequent plebiscites that may be held after the Bangsamoro has been created.
Professor, Mr. Chairman, that is precisely our concern, the future. Walang uncertainty, no? Bakit pa yung future namin matatakot kami sa iligan because there is a visibility ngayong coming plebiscites. Bakit pa naman anytime? Bakit hindi lang one time? Bakit pa anytime? Meaning, wala na tayo sa mundo, ganoon pa rin. So, that precisely cause worries among the non-Bangsamoro entities. Another question, Professor, is yun nga po, hindi naman very clear sa Article 15 sa privacy yung sinabi nyo nga if the barangay opts to be included, yung barangay lang ang mag-decide. How about the whole city? Because that city is a part of, that barangay is a part of Iligan City. Dapat very clear sana that the whole of the city of Iligan will cast their vote and decide. So, to my understanding, yung LGU nyo is barangay na. Because 49 barangays are included now. So, kailangan meron clarification who will participate in a plebiscite in case a barangay opts to be included in the Bangsamoro.
Yes, sir. Your clarification is with regard to the first plebiscite.
You want to be a member of a part of the Bangsamoro, yung Iligan City, ayaw yun dahil part of the land, sasama doon, hindi man lang yung habitats. We are talking here of land territories nga. So, another question nga hindi pa nansera, supposing lang yung mga tao gusto talaga sasama sa ARC as a Bangsamoro. What will happen now with Iligan City? Maging municipality na lang? What will happen with our area? What will happen with our share sa national wealth?
Sir, all of these things will happen only if people of Iligan decide to do this. So if they are not interested in this, then it will not happen.
Supposing they are interested, yun nga, tanong ko.
I think the consequences are very clear to everyone, but it's very clear po dun sa unang plebiscito, yes, it's possible that the...
Mr. Chairman, I just want to manifest yung concern po sa Iligan. Anyway, preliminary lang ito. So yun po ang concern namin sa Iligan City about the territories.
Yes.
Dahil po sinasabi na in the future, upon petition of 10%, if they ought to be included anytime, yun ang nakatakot yung anytime. Bakit hindi natin gawin wala na o once na po?
Yes, the other hand, it is stated that in future plebiscites, where there is 10% petition, the entire local government unit decides. In other words, it will not be the 7 barangays, but in the future, if there's a 10% of the barangay that will sign to have a plebiscite, all of Iligan City will be consulted through the plebiscite. So that is the explanation. But we thank you for your concern, because that's a concern of other areas contiguous to the territory of the Bangsamoro. Thank you. So, in our proceed. Thank you.
Your Honor, can I just...
Yes, Senator Dennis can comment.
Of course, our trust in the consent of the governed principle is really very high. But let me also just point out that this particular provision is in fact based on a sense of hope. That in fact, if the Bangsamoro really works well, that maybe contiguous territories will want to be part of it, and should we stop that? We understand that people will make their decision based on what is good for them. And if it looks like the Bangsamoro is working well and being good for them, then that is the only reason why we do not close this door. Let us look at this provision as a sign of hope and a sign of faith that the Bangsamoro will in fact improve the lives of the people and will provide the hope that maybe others will want to be in the future associated with it. It will not be forced. That is very clear. The Bangsamoro does not want to be enforced on anyone that does not want to be part of it.
Thank you, Secretary Delis. The next in line is Congresswoman Sorillas of Zamboanga del Sur.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To all, good morning. I am from the province of Zamboanga del Sur. I represent the 2nd district, meaning I am a Mindanaoan. Of course, all of us from Mindanao, we are for peace. That is genuine and lasting peace for our homeland, Mindanao. We want the BBL to be just and acceptable to all Mindanaoans consistent with our Constitution. We believe that the only way to have peace is for all of us to follow the law. Because first and foremost, we are all Filipinos. The proposed BBL looks good at the onset, but when reviewed objectively, you will realize that it is not the key to the long collective peace in Mindanao. As a matter of fact, the ongoing national debate on the proposed BBL created negative reactions from the community due to certain abilities that need to be clarified at the interest of the majority. Lumads, settlers, other groups must be put into consideration to ensure that this BBL will be consistent with our Philippine Constitution. Otherwise, it will appear just similar to the MOA Act that was already declared unconstitutional by the Supreme Court. Mr. Chair, I have some issues. And it appears that until today, there have not been genuine consultations made by the GRP, MILF, peace panels with local government units, especially those LGUs where there is a sizable number of MILF sympathizers. As to the authority to represent, who are the Bangsamoro people that the Philippine government is dealing with right now? It appears that the Philippine government is dealing with the MILF. So who gave the MILF the authority to represent the Bangsamoro people? When and where was this authority given? As to the separation of church and state, we have a separation of church and state under Article 2, Section 6 of the 1987 Constitution. MILF is bringing the name Islamic. Is this not a violation already? As to the territorial and political subdivisions of the state, Article 10, Section 1 of the 1987 Constitution provides Section 1, the territorial and political subdivisions of the Republic of the Philippines are the provinces, cities, municipalities, and barangays. There shall be autonomous regions in Muslim Mindanao and the Cordilleras as hereinafter provided. Without amending the Constitution, where shall we put the Bangsamoro area? Mr. Chair, there is not much information dissemination on the real contents of the comprehensive agreement of the Bangsamoro. The framework agreement and the Bangsamoro Basic Law, they may have been a flash of publicity on the progress of the peace process affecting the Bangsamoro in the national media. But there is not much discussion regarding the substance of these documents cited above, thus keeping a majority of Mindanaoans in the dark on the Bangsamoro issue. A reading of the Bangsamoro Basic Law will show that the Bangsamoro entity created therein possesses powers that are characteristic of the sovereign state. Is this a sub-state to be created from the Republic of the Philippines, and the Bangsamoro is just a preparation for eventual separation? On the issue of revenue sharing, the Bangsamoro appears to enjoy a much bigger share in revenues compared to local government units, which will continue to be under the local government code. What makes the Bangsamoro a superior entity compared to the other LGUs that will get a bigger share in revenues? This apparently will be a violation of the constitutional principle of equal protection of the laws, and that everything that is alive should be treated alive. Mr. Chair, I hereby manifest my strong opposition for the approval of the BBL due to the following reasons now. One, this will not lead to a lasting peace in Mindanao. We should not forget that MILF does not represent the entire Bangsamoro populace. MILF is just one among among those who strive for self-determination, there is still other groups who we should listen to. Indeed, we believe that the Bangsamoro Basic Law will just divide the Mindanao Island and will lead to another social volcano. Two, BBL limits the power of the Congress to review. The framework agreement of the Bangsamoro and its annexes repeatedly required that the Basic Law should be consistent with all agreements entered into and that may be entered into or in accordance with the provisions of the framework agreement of the Bangsamoro. It is repeatedly stated in the comprehensive agreement of the Bangsamoro that all agreements entered into have to be implemented. What is there to review if the Congress is compelled to respect all previous agreements, whether they are illegal or unconstitutional? 3, it does not address the basic problem, but it adds to the problems on food security, employment, health, and education are our real problems in Mindanao. People need more food on their table, decent wages, medicines, and health facilities, and send the children to school. The BBL will not solve these problems, but worsen them by slicing the wealth of Mindanao for the majority of the people. 4, and last, it promotes division and expansion of Bangsamoro territory. The provision wherein only 10% is required for a certain area to be included in the Bangsamoro territory will just create a scenario of war between the Bangsamoro and the local government units. This will just cause chaos, uncertainty, and instability instead of promoting peace. Mr. Chairman, we are not against peace. We just want to have a fair and just BBM that is for the good of the majority, consistent with the Philippine Constitution. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Congresswoman Cirilles. We'd like to ask Secretary Deles, then Chairman Iqbal, and Professor Ferrer to comment on the points raised by the Honorable Congresswoman.
Thank you very much. With due respect to the good Congresswoman, of course we hold different view. That if we hold the view that it is good to have a political settlement with an armed group that has been waging war on the Philippine government for decades, the costs of which have been enormous, not just for the area itself, not just for the Bangsamoro, but for the entire Mindanao and in fact the entire country. We know that the problem in the area of Muslim Mindanao has in fact been a drain on the country. It has dragged the country down. And as in every peace agreement that has been reached in any part of the world, we welcome an agreement of how to settle this problem, and that both sides have come to an agreement to solve this problem through legislation by the properly authorized body, by the Constitution, the Congress, therefore, to make the law under a constitution, a clear constitutional mandate. The Constitution has declared that there may be two autonomous regions in the country, and autonomy does not mean separation, it does not mean dismemberment, it in fact means that there can be a different arrangement for parts of the country which have undergone a different history, are still made distinct by their culture and perhaps their faith, that it may be proper to give them a certain arrangement where there may be more self-governance than others. And self-governance does not only mean entitlements, it also means more responsibilities. And therefore, when you look at what much more power is given, that is part of the responsibility of self-governance. Real self-governance means that you have to give them the powers, and you have to give them the means, that is the powers of to reach fiscal autonomy. And it is very clear that the fiscal autonomy that is proposed in the Bangsamoro Basic Law is not endless entitlement. It does say that any additional revenues that are earned because of the law, of the provisions in the law, from the shares in taxation, as well as in their shares from revenues of from natural resources will be after the 4th year deducted from the block grant that is given. So it is clear that what is envisioned here is that this called self-governance will also in time be supported through its own autonomous ways of supporting itself. The law is very clear. It is under the constitutional framework. It is a part of the national territory. It is part of the general supervision of the president. The reserved powers are clear. National defense, foreign policy, among others, even coinage, even postal services are reserved to the national government. Therefore, in all ways that look at the question of sovereignty, it is clear that sovereignty is with the central government. It is only autonomy that is provided for in this territory. Having said that, the question of why the government, who has government talked to, it is the understood way in peacemaking that one talks, unfortunately, to those who have waged war, and that is the case here, where it was clear that there was no military means by which this could be resolved. Otherwise, it would have been resolved earlier. And therefore, a political settlement is what you are looking at. An agreement by two parties that through a peaceful political way you will resolve that problem. That is certainly the way of all civilized nations. That is certainly the way of all democratic states. And we are happy to be at this stage now where we are. And it is clear that this resolution is not just going to be with the MILF. That is why it is going to Congress. If it were just between the MILF and the government, then it would have ended with a cap. But no, it goes to Congress. And in Congress, the ones who will pass the law are representatives of the entire country. And even after the law is passed, it goes to plebiscite. Meaning to say, if the Bangsamoro people, the inhabitants of the Bangsamoro don't agree with it, they will vote it down. It is still the consent of the governed. It is still the consent of those who will be most affected by it. We are, of course, hoping, and what we are getting, the signs that we are getting from the ground is, in fact, there is a great welcome. There is a sense of hope that we are really now at the end of what has been a very dark tunnel. But in the end, the resolution belongs to all of us. It is put to Congress, a national body with representatives from the entire country. And it is put to the inhabitants of the Bangsamoro, whether in fact they will be part of it or not. The MILF has been an instrument. And I think we should be happy to say that the MILF, as it has waged war in the past, is now making itself an instrument of peace, where in the end, it is the people that will decide whether that settlement that we have agreed on is the one that they will also accept. With regard to the matter of consultations, I think Chairman Iqbal and Chair Ferrer would like to say something also.
Thank you, Secretary Deles. Chairman Iqbal is recognized.
Thank you very much, Your Honor, for giving me the opportunity to respond to the issue of public consultation. I wish to inform this august body that the Bangsamoro Precision Commission has 4 mandates, one of which is to conduct public engagement, public forum, so that they will understand the whole aspect of the drafting of the Bangsamoro Basic Law. Separately or jointly, both the government and the minor peace panel have conducted extensive public engagement, public consultations. And aside from that, the MILF has entered into several, the Bangsamoro Precision Commission has entered into several memorandum of understanding agreement with many international non-government organizations, notably the Center for Humanitarian Dialogue, the Conservation Resources, even the Asia Foundation, to conduct consultations on the ground in various parts of Mindanao, and even including Manila, and some parts of Visayas and Luzon. Aside from that, the Bangsamoro Precision Commission had also made courtesy calls to the Governor of Lanao del Sur, the Governor of Maguindanao, the Governor of North Cotabato, the Mayor of Cotabato City, the Governor of Basilan, the Governor of Tawi-Tawi, the Governor of Sulu, and we even paid a courtesy call to the city mayor of Zamboanga City, where we were treated in a special manner. I would have liked to discuss how we were treated in Zamboanga City. And I'm also happy to say here that with us today are two of the outstanding personalities who believe in peace, and they have conducted hundreds of consultations in Mindanao. I'm referring to the Mindanao Civil Society organization for this process. With the permission of the Honorable Chair, would I be permitted to call the two personalities? First, Attorney Ann Arlado to share an inputs about how extensive was the consultation. And of course, I would also call on Brother Gosling Clark to share his experiences and engagement with the people on the ground, on various stakeholders in Mindanao.
Yes, considering that the issue of consultation was raised by Congresswoman Cerillas, we now allow and recognize Ms. Arnado and then Mr. Miklat to be able to answer about Mr. Arnado is not here, but I see Mr. Miklat. Yeah. Mr. Miklat, the Executive Director of the Mindanao Peace Weavers.
Thank you, Your Honor, and thank you, Chairman Iqbal, for allowing me to tell you about the consultations that we have been involved in. It's very interesting to listen and to be part of this historical and momentous process. And I might just want to reiterate that this process was not just the result of a negotiation between two panels. I think civil society has also a stake in this and have been part of the process in accompanying this process, especially after the 2000 all-out war was waged in Mindanao. The Mindanao Peace Weavers, which is the broadest coalition of peace advocates in and for Mindanao, with members both in the Visayas and also in Luzon, have been conducting countless consultations with and in partnership with the other major stakeholders, be the GPH, the MILF, etc. But we do it also independently as civil society stakeholders. We partner, we engage, we have sometimes issues that we don't agree with, but at the end of the day, we partner because we all want to achieve the same thing that we want to achieve, which is lasting, genuine, equitable peace. We've had consultations around Mindanao, but we know that, as we have heard here, that this issue is not just for Mindanaoans, not just for the Bangsamoro, but also for the rest of the Philippines. And in fact, even the region at large is watching this. Our organization, the Initiatives for International Dialogue, have also been engaging in the issues of Burma, Timor, South Thailand, and they are also looking at this process right now, studying what we have been doing. And in fact, what we may be doing here, or what you will be passing eventually, will be something that would, I think, inspire also others who are looking for a way out of a violent conflict. I was just telling our friend at the back that what you are doing here actually is short of arresting what has been being tried in the past, a path to peace through war. But now we are trying to achieve peace through a political settlement, a negotiated political settlement. And I think that is the way to go, so that we don't go back to the ways of war. Now, MPW, the Peace Weavers, together with our allied partners and networks, the Women's Peace Table, the Mindanao Commission of Women, the different allied networks, even the Mindanao Solidarity Network here in Manila, have been consulting our constituents, grassroots and otherwise, about this process. FAB, CAB, we've been there, the annexes, we've been engaging in KL, we've been engaging in even during the lulls, where the 4.5 months that the BBL has not yet been released, we've been trying back channels, front channels, whatever, just to give our inputs. And in fact, if you have in your table, Your Honors, Mindanao People's Peace Agenda pamphlet, that is reflective of more than 2 years of consultations of our own constituents in the Peace Weavers. That is, I think, reflective of our aspirations. All of them may not be part of the agreement, but the agenda is beyond an agreement, and we hope to continue to engage not only in the passage of this BBL, but even beyond. In the plebiscite, we will be there, and even hopefully when the BTA is
Yeah, Sir Nicholas, can you tell us which parts of Mindanao you were able to reach and have consultations?
Well, the MPW's membership is all around Mindanao, so we have West Mindanao, we have the islands, Sulu, Jolo, we have Zamboanga. In fact, I remember Congressman Gobrigat, we were partners in our Caravan for Peace, if you remember. We had a Caravan for Peace that came from Baguio up to Mindanao, and we passed by Zamboanga, and a good mayor at that time was Congressman Gobrigat, who even held the torch of our caravan when we embarked on this. So we were in West Mindanao, we were in Central Mindanao, we were also in South Mindanao, and we have partners in North Mindanao. Then we also went to Visayas, Bacolod, Cebu, Bohol, the Republic of Bohol, and even in Manila.
Thank you very much. That was Mr. Meclas of the Mindanao Peace Weavers and the International Initiative for Dialogue.
Initiatives for International
Dialogue. We'd like to recognize now Ms. Nanda is already here. She is with the Mindanao CSO, the Civil Society Organization Platform for Peace. Yes, please proceed.
Good afternoon.
This is a matter of consultations.
Yes, sir. In behalf of the Mindanao Civil Society Organization Platform for Peace, I am very, very happy to inform this committee that the civil society in Mindanao have come together in partnership with the Bangsamoro Transition Commission for the conduct of public consultations. So around 120 civil society organizations in Mindanao have volunteered our time, resources, and people to be able to contribute in ensuring that our communities will be able to participate in the initial stages of the drafting of the Bangsamoro Basic Law at the level of the BTC. So from October up to March of this year, we are happy to report to you that we have conducted 646 consultations. And these were done in the ARMM provinces, including those target expanded areas of Cotabato City, Isabela, and especially in mixed communities of Muslims and Christians in North Cotabato and Lanao del Norte. So this is our contribution to ensure that the experience that we had with the MOA AD will not be repeated anymore. This is, we are not part of the government, we're not part of the MILF, but this is our contribution as Mindanaoan to ensure that we will all be able to ensure that in this PPL, we will no longer have any problems or questions with regards to the public engagement because we are addressing that as civil society. Now that's for round 1, 646 consultation. Now for this round 2, we are going to bring again the Bangsamoro Basic Law, this time the version that we have now in Congress. We will bring this back to our communities, explain to them the contents here, and ask also their recommendations, proposals, clarify their questions, address their fears. And again, as civil society, we will be volunteering our resources here as our contribution to the peace process and as our duty as Mindanaoans for our peace advocacy.
Thank you,
Mr. Chairman. my name was mentioned earlier.
Yes, your name was mentioned.
My
So would you
name
like to
was-
comment on your name being mentioned?
Yes, because my
Okay.
name was
You
mentioned.
have 1 minute, Congressman.
Yeah, it really shows that if the caravan was held in Zamboanga, I was present because I am for peace. However, if you talk of consultations, earlier the lady said that they made consultations from October to March. But many of the agreements were already signed before October and March. Consultation should be done prior to the signing of any of the framework or the annexes. It should not be done after. If it is done after, it is no longer information, it is consultation after the fact, and it is information, not consultation. In fact, Chairman Iqbal said that they made courtesy calls to the governors of the different provinces. These courtesy calls were after the signing of the CAP and the SAP. So actually, even when there was that consultation in Zamboanga, the consultation of the Transition Commission was already created, meaning to say all the agreements have already been signed. So there is a very big difference between consultation prior to the signing of any agreement or consultations after the signing of the agreement. Thank you.
Thank you, Congressman Obrigado. We'd like to recognize Professor Ferrer.
Can I just say, Your Honor,
Yes,
we
Secretary,
are happy
yes.
to provide the committee the listing of all consultations that were held way even before the signing of the CAP.
Thank you. Professor Ferrer.
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. I'd just like to go back to some of the points raised by Representative Saliles, because she did raise several points and would like to acknowledge this. But first of all, I would like to say that indeed in the past, under the leadership of our previous chair, who is now the Associate Justice in the Supreme Court, Marvic Leonen, we did get the opportunity to meet with Governor Saliles and the other governors of the Zamboanga Peninsula. And actually, we have been here in Congress several times. Every time we came from Kuala Lumpur, even as we were still negotiating the framework agreement as well as the 4 annexes that we eventually signed, we have come back here to report to you on all of these developments. And I do remember very well that both Representatives Lobrigat as well as Representative Saliles attended these hearings. I would like to acknowledge the observation made by Congresswoman Saliles that indeed the real problems are education, health, and other basic services. And to that extent, we know that the provinces, the Muslim-dominated provinces that now currently comprise the autonomous region in Muslim Mindanao, are actually the ones that are most deprived with regard to these basic needs and services. And it has been the intention of the peace negotiations and now at the draft PDL with its different provisions relating to the fiscal autonomy, economy, and rehabilitation, which are 2 distinct articles in the BBL, plus another distinct article on rehabilitation and development, to address this dire situation as far as human development indicators go. We know that Sulu, Basilan, Maguindanao, Lanao are part of the last 10 provinces in the Human Development Index, and we are hoping very much that making permanent the ceasefire, ending the conflict through this comprehensive agreement and the implementation of its different provisions, the passage of this law would provide a favorable atmosphere, environment for all the socio-economic development to take place and uplift the lives of our brothers and sisters in that part of Mindanao. I would also like to acknowledge the point made by Representative Saliles that it is true that the MILF does not represent everybody in the region. The MILF is an organized group with its constituency, although it is also true that it is probably the biggest armed group now in the country, and it is indeed a very good development that the MILF has agreed to undergo the process of the commissioning of its weapons and combatants, a future that we all look forward to as part of the process of ending all forms of political violence that we find in our country. But at the same time, we also know that this law that we have now, this bill that we have now, was initiated by the process of peace agreement, which makes it somewhat different from all other cases. But at the same time, it's so different from other bills that are initiated by different groups, different interest groups, different civil society groups. They may have come from one segment of the population. In this case, it has come and it reflects the aspirations of our brothers and sisters in the Moro Islamic Liberation Front and their constituencies. But at the same time, we had always worked collaboratively work on the principle of inclusivity to ensure that all interests, all stakeholders, the different concerns will be reflected in the law. Earlier, Representative Lobregat asked us why the review process took a long time. And I do not wish to provoke another response that I have mentioned Congressman Lobregat again, but I think I would like to answer indirectly that precisely we underwent this due diligence reviewing these law as well as the annexes, the different annexes that we signed to ensure that all the important principles, democratic principles are taken into account and the different interests and welfares are addressed. So in the end, I think we can say that what we have is a peace agreement and a draft Bangsamoro basic law that is not just for the MILF, but are for all the people who will, especially for all the people, whether Muslim or non-Muslim, whether indigenous or non-indigenous, they are reflective of all the interests and reflects the guarantees rights and welfare of all the citizens who will be part of this Bangsamoro government. Thank you.
Thank you for recognizing Congressman Biason. Would you like to have some words from Secretary?
Yes, I would just like to address the concern that this may be in violation of the constitutional principle of the separation between church and state. And maybe it is good to be reminded that it is in fact the constitution that mentions the term Muslim Mindanao, recognizing that this is part of the narrative. And the term Bangsamoro speaks of a larger identity, not just based on religion, it is also ethnic, it is cultural, it is a sense of a whole history. So in fact, in that way, it even gives a broader view of this. But just to assure that in Article 9 on basic rights, without mentioning all the rights already guaranteed by the Constitution, again, certain rights were selected to be stressed. Just to give assurances on this matter, and if you will look at the basic rights, section 1, you have as letter B, right to freedom and expression of religion and beliefs. Letter I, right to equal opportunity and non-discrimination in social and economic activity and the public service, regardless of class, creed, disability, gender, and ethnicity. J, it's right to establish cultural and religious associations. And K, right to freedom from religious, ethnic, and sectarian harassment. In fact, any inhabitant of the Bangsamoro, whether Muslim, Christian, or Lumat, may run for public office in the Bangsamoro.
Thank you. Now we recognize Senator Congressman Biason.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. 42 years of strife